What if the person who rescued a $100 million deal wasn't some boardroom hotshot, but the night janitor nobody ever noticed? At exactly 2:47 in the morning, Riley Morgan picked up a phone call she was never supposed to receive. And in a matter of hours, the woman who mopped floors became the one everyone needed. What began as a misdial turned into an international alliance, a corporate turning point, and a shot at a kind of love Riley had long stopped believing in. Stick with this story, because what's coming next just might flip your entire view on success, second chances, and who really holds the power. The phone rang at 1:58 a.m. Sharp, cutting through the soft drone of her vacuum like glass shattering in a church. Riley Morgan jumped, her heart skipping as she looked down at the screen. An unknown number. International. She figured it was one of those late-night scams, probably someone pushing fake crypto deals or asking if she'd ever been in an imaginary car accident. She almost let it ring out. Almost. But something, call it gut instinct or the kind of tired that runs deeper than sleep, told her to pick up. "Hello?" she said, flicking off the vacuum with her foot. A woman's voice, urgent and shaking, poured through the line. "Please, you have to help me. Everything's falling apart. The deal, it's unraveling. My boss, his entire career is on the line." Riley's eyes darted around the sleek steel and glass lobby of Hartley Technologies, trying to make sense of what she was hearing. I think you dialed the wrong number," she said hesitantly. "I'm just the—" No, I didn't." The voice interrupted, cracking with desperation. "No one else is picking up. Mr. Hartley, he won't answer. And the Yamamoto deal, it's collapsing. If this doesn't get fixed, we could lose everything. Over $100 million, maybe more." Riley froze beside her cart, hands still gripping the handle. "Did you say Damon Hartley?" Yes, you know him?" The woman's voice lit up with sudden hope. "Please, my name is Leah Mori. I'm his assistant. I'm calling from Osaka. I've tried every number. This was the only one that went through." Riley felt her pulse quicken. Damon Hartley. As in the Damon Hartley, the face of a multi-billion-dollar tech empire, the name etched across magazine covers like Fortune and Forbes. And here she was, a night janitor barely scraping together rent for a rundown walk-up in Eastbridge. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, her voice tight. "I don't think I can help. I mean, I don't know the first thing about business deals." "But you're already inside the building," Leah cut in, her voice trembling with urgency. "Security won't let me in. There's no one else on site. You might be the only person who can do something." Riley hesitated, eyes drifting toward the elevator, the one that led to the top floor she only cleaned when the suits had gone home. Those polished executive offices suddenly felt like they held something volatile, like stepping in might set off an alarm she couldn't silence. "I mean, I could check to see if he's still around," she offered, her voice unsure. "But what if he thinks I'm making it up?" Leah didn't hesitate. Her next words hit like a drumbeat. "Right now, you're the only one who can save him." Riley's hands shook as she started pushing her cleaning cart toward the elevator. What in the world was she doing? She was just a cleaner, not some business negotiator, not a trained diplomat. And yet, there was something in Leah's voice. Something raw, real, not the kind of panic you could fake. Whatever was happening overseas, it was serious. And somehow, she was the only person left who could stop it. The elevator doors opened on the 21st floor with a soft chime. Only a few lights were still on, flickering dimly in the offices behind their glass walls. She heard faint sounds, keyboard clicks, the low creak of a chair. Carefully, she followed the noise, her sneakers silent against the marble floor. She stopped in front of the corner office. A plaque on the door read, "Damon Hartley, Chief Executive Officer." From inside, she caught the sound of movement. A sigh, a low groan. Riley knocked gently. "Mr. Hartley," she called. "Are you all right?" There was a pause. Then came a groggy voice. "Who's there?" She took a breath. "My name's Riley," she said. "I'm with the cleaning crew. I just got a call from someone named Leah. She's in Osaka. She said it's urgent." Inside, she heard the sound of someone shifting quickly, papers rustling, a chair sliding. The office door swung open, fast, unfiltered, and there he stood. Not the polished CEO from magazine covers. Not the boardroom legend in a crisp suit. Damon Hartley looked human. His designer shirt was wrinkled, his eyes red and heavy with exhaustion, and his jaw rough with unshaven stubble. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. "You talked to Leah?" he asked, raking a shaky hand through his tousled hair. "She said the Yamamoto deal is breaking down," Riley told him carefully. "Something about the contract's translation. They think it disrespected them." Logan's face went pale. "Oh no. He stumbled back to his desk, bumping into a stack of folders that tumbled to the floor. "If they believe we insulted them, we're done," he muttered. "The entire deal gone." Riley stepped tentatively into the room, suddenly unsure if she was supposed to be there at all. "I've been up for 3 days straight," Damon said, rubbing his face. I must have passed out right here. My phone's dead. I didn't even hear it ring. I could try calling her back for you, Riley offered, unsure if she was overstepping. He perked up instantly. Yes, please. Let me call her from your phone. As she handed it over, Riley's eyes drifted to the wall, lined with framed portraits. Photos of Damon standing beside his late father, Edward Hartley, the man who'd started it all. Damon noticed. He built this from nothing, he said softly. When he died 2 years ago, the board didn't think I could carry the weight. He paused. This deal, it's my shot to prove them wrong. When Leah answered the call, her voice cracked from the strain. Mr. Hartley, thank God. I've been trying every line. As they spoke, Riley remained nearby, trying to disappear into the background. But she couldn't help listening. The issue wasn't legal, it was cultural. The South Korean team believed the contract's wording insulted their honor. This isn't just another transaction, Leah explained. It's about more than business to them. It's trust. It's respect. Damon exhaled, dragging his hands down his face. I studied the culture, he said. I read the books. I thought I understood. Before she could stop herself, Riley spoke. Maybe you were thinking of them as clients, she said quietly, not as people. Logan's head snapped up. What do you mean? He asked, eyes narrowing with curiosity. She swallowed. When people feel disrespected, Riley said gently, it's usually not about what was said, it's about whether they felt seen. Leah's voice came softly through the speaker. She's right. A quiet hush settled over the room. And this time, Damon didn't just glance at Riley, he saw her. You might have just saved my company, he said slowly. For a woman who spent her nights scrubbing toilets and hauling trash bags, those words struck like thunder on bare ground. And it was only 2:26 a.m. Be honest, if you were Riley, would you have answered that strange call at 1:58 a.m.? She stood frozen in the corner of the CEO's office, the weight of everything that had just happened pressing down like gravity. She could hardly process what she'd heard. Damon Hartley, that Damon Hartley, had looked her in the eye and told her she might have saved it all. And all she had done was answer the wrong call and tell the truth. Damon had started pacing again behind his desk, the tension rolling off him in waves. They think I disrespected them, he muttered under his breath. That I see them as beneath us. That wording. He shook his head. It wasn't just business to them. It felt personal. Suddenly he looked up. Leah, are you still there? Yes, Mr. Hartley. Her voice came clear through Riley's phone speaker. I spoke with Mr. Nakamura's team. The way the proposal's phrased, it implies we think their company isn't on our level, especially the financial section. It reads like we're offering charity instead of inviting a partnership. Damon dropped into his chair like the wind had gone out of him. I didn't mean that at all, he said. I thought the tone was strong, confident, but now it just sounds arrogant. Riley leaned against the wall, uncertain. Was this her moment to speak again, or had she already said too much? But then she saw him bury his face in his hands. Something inside her shifted. She couldn't stay quiet. Then maybe, she said softly, it's time to stop talking like a CEO. Damon looked up, startled. What? She held his gaze. Maybe this time, just speak as a son, as a man trying to carry forward what his father built. Tell them the truth, not about the numbers, but about why this deal actually matters. Not as business, but as legacy. Before the silence could settle again, Leah's voice echoed gently from the phone. That might be the only way, Leah said gently. If you call Mr. Nakamura yourself and speak from the heart, he might reconsider. But it has to be real, Mr. Hartley. No rehearsed speech. No corporate fluff. Damon gave a slow nod, jaw tightening with quiet determination. Then his eyes returned to Riley. Would you help me figure out what to say? She blinked, caught off guard. Me? You saw something I didn't, Damon said. You reminded me that business is about people. That means more than any MBA ever could. Riley hesitated, her voice unsure. I mean, I don't know anything about international contracts or global partnerships. But you know what it feels like to be overlooked, he said. To be underestimated. That's exactly what Mr. Nakamura is feeling right now. He handed her the phone again, but her fingers trembled as she reached for it. This felt too big, too sudden. Just a few hours ago, she was scrubbing dried coffee off glass conference tables. Now she was being asked to help steer a $100 million deal back from the edge. I need a minute, she said quietly. And with that, she stepped into the hallway. The polished floors were cool under her sneakers as she walked, her breath catching in her throat. She paced slowly, trying to calm the whirlwind inside. Why had she said yes? Why had she let herself get involved? But then, out of nowhere, a different memory surfaced. The faces of the daycare kids who looked up to her like she hung the stars. The dream she'd scribbled down once in a beat-up, old notebook. A community center. A place where kids with nowhere else to go could feel safe, seen, and believed in. A space for hope, for dignity, for second chances. And just like that, this moment stopped feeling like pressure. It started feeling like purpose. When she walked back into the office, Damon was waiting for her. A fresh cup of coffee sat on the desk. A notepad lay open. "All right," he said, meeting her eyes. "Let's figure out how to speak human again." The next hour passed in quiet conversation. Not CEO to janitor, not boss to employee, just two people, sitting down to rebuild something important. Damon talked about his father, Edward Hartley, the man who'd started it all in a tiny basement, with one computer and a second-hand desk. He spoke of how his dad used to say that business wasn't about profits. It was about trust. Riley opened up that hour, not about business, but about life. She shared what it was like growing up in a small town in Nebraska, how she lost her mother to cancer far too young, how she juggled 3 jobs just to make ends meet, yet still held on to a dream that refused to die. By the time the two of them finished drafting the message, the first light of morning was spilling over Seattle. The city beyond the tall glass windows still slept, but inside that high-rise office, something real, something alive, was awakening. Damon reached for the office phone. "Leah," he said, "connect me to Mr. Nakamura. I'd like to speak with him directly." Riley stood quietly, breath caught in her chest, as the call went through. When the line picked up, Logan's voice was steady. "Mr. Nakamura," he began, "I know it's early where you are, and I apologize for the disturbance. But I wanted to speak to you not as a CEO, but as a son who inherited a legacy." He paused, listening, then continued, "I understand you did the same, and I know what it means to protect the name your father built." He glanced toward Riley as he spoke, his voice softening. "When I read your company's history," he said, "I saw echoes of my own. 2 men who started with nothing and built something lasting. And now, we, their sons, are doing our best to honor that legacy." He took another breath. "In the past few days, I lost sight of that. I was too focused on closing a deal and not focused enough on earning your respect." Riley could only hear Logan's side of the conversation, but she didn't need both ends to feel it. The entire energy in the room was shifting. His posture changed. His tone grew grounded. And for the first time, it felt less like a negotiation and more like a reckoning. "I'd like to begin again," Damon said. "No presentations. No pitches. Just 2 sons, talking about building something that would make their fathers proud." When he hung up, the silence was so full it had weight. The only sound was the soft ticking of a wall clock in the background. "He agreed to meet again," Damon said finally. "But there's a condition." Riley raised an eyebrow. "What kind of condition?" Damon looked at her, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "He wants you to be part of the conversation." Riley let out a nervous laugh. "Me?" He nodded. His words, not mine. He said, "I want the person who helped you see what truly matters in the room." Then added, "Only someone who can see the soul behind the strategy is worth listening to." Riley stared, speechless. Damon leaned in slightly, his voice lower now, grateful, grounded. "Riley," Damon said with a half-smile, "I think you just got promoted." This time, her laugh came out a mix of disbelief and sheer shock. "But I still have a shift at the daycare tomorrow." "Not anymore," he replied. "You've got a seat at the table now." As sunlight poured across the office floor, warming the steel and glass around them, Riley realized something. Her life had just changed in a way she never could have predicted. "What about you? Have you ever had one small decision, one unexpected moment, rewrite your entire story?" 10 days later, Riley Morgan sat in the back of a sleek black sedan, headed toward Damon International Airport. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped something she'd never imagined holding, a brand new passport. She always thought she might use it one day, maybe for a honeymoon, on some far-off trip she'd never allowed herself to plan. But today wasn't about a vacation. She was flying to Osaka, not as a tourist, but as a guest of Yamamoto Industries. As a consultant. Even now, the word still felt strange on her tongue. Everything had moved so fast. After the call with Mr. Nakamura, Damon didn't waste a second. He pulled her into every prep meeting with his international team. At first, people looked at her with raised eyebrows, curious, maybe even skeptical. But when she spoke, about empathy, about cultural respect, about why authenticity mattered more than polished pitches, the energy in the room shifted. Riley wasn't just a janitor who stumbled into a meeting. She was the one who had seen what all the lawyers and consultants missed. Now, she and Damon were headed overseas to seal the deal. But this wasn't just about signing papers. Mr. Nakamura had told them privately, this next meeting wouldn't just be a second chance. It would be a conversation about rewriting the way global business was done. And Riley, yes, Riley, would be at the center of it. But it wasn't just the business that had changed. Something else had shifted, quieter, deeper. Somewhere between late-night strategy sessions and shared takeout over scattered documents. Something unspoken began to take root between her and Logan. Riley didn't know what it was yet, didn't have a name for it. And maybe that was okay. Because the way Damon looked at her now, it wasn't like she was just someone who solved a crisis. It was like he saw her as something more. A possibility. Someone who mattered. And for Riley, that gaze made her feel more seen than she ever had in her entire life. The meetings in Osaka didn't go the way she'd expected. They weren't stiff or corporate. They were honest, personal, real. Mr. Nakamura introduced her not as a consultant, but as a reminder. A reminder, he said, of why I entered business in the first place. His team welcomed her with quiet curiosity at first, but that curiosity soon shifted into something deeper, respect. Riley didn't show off. She didn't try to impress. She just spoke the truth. She talked about what it felt like to go unseen, and how powerful it was the moment someone looked up and said, "I see you." By the end of their final meeting, Mr. Nakamura rose from his seat and bowed directly to her. "Ms. Morgan," he said softly, "you have not only changed this deal, you have changed the way I will do business for the rest of my life." On the flight back to Seattle, Riley sat by the window, watching the clouds drift over the Pacific. Damon leaned toward her. "You know this isn't the end, right?" he said. She turned, puzzled. "What do you mean?" "I mean this model. This whole idea that business should be built on real relationships. It works. And people are starting to notice." He smiled. "Mr. Nakamura already introduced us to 3 CEOs who want to try it too. They all want to meet you." Riley blinked. "Me? But I don't even have a degree. I don't own a suit." Damon stopped her with a look. "You've got something no school teaches," he said. "You listen. You lead with heart. And that's what business has been missing all along." Back in Seattle, everything became real. Damon offered Riley a permanent role, co-director of a brand new consulting division focused on helping international companies navigate cross-cultural partnerships with empathy and integrity. Riley said yes, but she had one condition. She wanted a portion of her salary set aside to finally build her dream. A community center for kids in underserved neighborhoods. A place for dignity, hope, and second chances. Damon didn't just agree. He helped her find the building. 8 months later, Riley stood in front of a packed lecture hall at Harvard Business School. It was the same auditorium where Damon had once stood alone. Now, they stood together. Janitor turned leader. CEO turned student. In a room full of future executives finally learning the one lesson no textbook ever taught. Business begins with humanity. "When I answered that call at 1:58 a.m., Riley said, her voice calm but unwavering, "I wasn't trying to change the world. I just heard someone who sounded scared, and I wanted to help." She paused, her eyes scanning the crowd. But sometimes, that's all it takes, to begin something bigger than yourself. The applause that followed shook the room. After the talk, a student approached her, nervous but determined. "Ms. Morgan," she said, "I've always felt like I didn't belong here. My parents work in factories. I'm the first in my family to go to college. But hearing your story makes me feel like maybe I do belong." Riley smiled, warm and sure. "You do," she said. "And you're exactly what this world needs." That night, Riley and Damon sat side by side on a park bench, overlooking the Columbia River. City lights rippled across the dark water. The air was cool and quiet. The future felt wide open. Damon shifted slightly, his voice softer than usual. "There's something I've been meaning to ask you," he said. "Okay," Riley replied, already feeling her heart start to race. "When we first met," Damon said, "I saw you as someone who could save a deal. But now, I see you as someone who changed the way I see the world. I don't know where all of this will lead, but I know I don't want to do it without you. Not the business, not the travel, not the life." Riley studied his face, sincere, steady, vulnerable. "I didn't grow up around people like you," she admitted. "And to be honest, I'm still scared sometimes. Scared someone will figure out I don't belong, that I'm not enough." Damon reached for her hand. "You've already proven you're more than enough," he said quietly. "Not just in business for me." And there, under the glow of the city, nothing polished or perfect about it, Riley reached back. "I'm in," she whispered. 14 months later, Riley stood in front of her dream, turned real. Ribbon in hand, Damon by her side, neighborhood kids cheering behind them. Above the entrance, the sign read, "The 247 Center. Because the right call can change everything." What about you? Do you believe one moment can change everything? Have you ever been seen, heard, or valued in a way that made you believe in yourself again? Do you think the world of business needs more humanity and more heart, like Riley brought to the table? If this story touched you, comment 100 below and tell us where in the world you're watching from. And if you believe voices like Riley's deserve to be heard, share this with someone who needs the reminder. One decision, one voice, yes, even yours, can start something extraordinary.